Thanks for tuning in to the WingSpace Podcast. This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the WingSpace Podcast, a place to take up space. Welcome to season 5, where we are focusing on the 5 pillars of wellness. We've got food and nutrition, movement, sleep, stress, and relationships. Your eyes, for those of you that are looking online, are not deceiving you. I am recording from a different location. You know, the mornings look different sometimes and in this season of life, and that's okay. So I'm recording from home, and today's episode is on sleep. And I'll be honest with you, I got a great night's sleep last night. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about this topic. You know, it's one that we have talked a lot about before on the podcast. So I will make sure that we've got the links to the other episodes queued up in the show notes. And I don't want to repeat everything we've talked about before. I want to spend some time today just talking to you about how to implement what might seem hard. So go back and listen to those previous episodes. You will hear me talk about, and if you've already listened to them, you have heard me talk about why sleep is so important, the physiological, the mental health effects of good sleep. And we've talked a little bit about sleep routines and sleep hygiene. So today I really want to just spend some time talking about how to implement those things. Because, you know, we can say this is what we need to do in the morning and this is what we need to do in the evening to bookend that day and to set ourselves up for success in good sleep. But the reality is none of us are going to completely overhaul every aspect of our sleep routines, our evening routines, our morning routines in order to get that good sleep. Also, we are greatly impacted by the people around us. So, you know, I love my husband, 20 years of marriage, he's a snorer. And so I know that I pretty much have to be asleep before he goes to sleep. Otherwise, I'm going to lay in bed listening to him snore. It's just an impact on our sleep. Yeah, I know you should probably have a sleep study. That's a story for another day. So let's talk about this idea of sleep routines, right? So we oftentimes just go, right? We jump out of bed. Well, some people don't jump out of bed. They're hitting snooze way too many times and they're sluggish and etc. But that is impacted by our sleep, right? So in this hurried and harried world that we live in, we're go, and then we drop into bed and we then wonder why we lay there and we can't sleep, and why we might toss and turn, and why we wake up in the morning and we're restless. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what might be kind of the ideal routines. And then I want to talk a little bit about how to implement that. So we're going to say in an ideal world, which I know that we don't, but in ideal circumstances, right, we will have ceased our caffeine intake much earlier in the day, maybe kind of that, you know, earlier than like 2:00. For some people, it's noon, but we've ended our caffeine intake. We've had a reasonable size meal for dinner. We're not having late night snacks. We're not having alcohol in the evening. We're not doing anything that's super stressful, like, you know, trying to do our taxes every night. And let's just say that 10:00 is when you want to be in bed asleep. So your sleep routine is going to start around 8:30. Again, this is ideal, not possible in all circumstances. So around 8:30, you're going to, you know, tidy up the house, close up loose ends, you know, whatever needs to get done today to prepare for tomorrow. And then you're going to begin to give your body the clues that it's time to start to go to sleep. Because what happens physiologically is that as we start to get into that sleep routine, our body begins to create melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone in our body that puts us to sleep. So if we're go, and then jump into bed, there's no melatonin on board. So, you know, around 9:00, we're going to turn the screens off. We're going to put our phone on the charger, ideally in another room, ideally. We're going to maybe take a hot shower or a bath, kind of settle into our skin for the night, right? Put some pajamas on, wash our face, brush our teeth, kind of the hygiene related things, right? For some of you, this might be a great time to have a hot cup of tea, read a book, maybe not one that's super thought-provoking and emotionally driven, and maybe journaling some thoughts for the day and kind of brain dumping and settling into a space in your bed where it's comfortable. The temperatures can be right. They say ideally cooler temperatures are better for sleep. And we keep our house at a pretty reasonable temperature. I think the problem I fall into, I'll be quite honest with you, there's some nights that I have a t-shirt, pajama pants, socks, and a hoodie on. And then we have a sheet and a blanket. So it's no wonder that I wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm sweating. So lighter clothing so that you're, kind of cooler when you're going to bed, a dark environment, no flashing lights, no lights of any kind if possible. I know for some people, they're like, yeah, I have to have a nightlight on. Okay, maybe try it without a nightlight for a week or so and see how it goes. As quiet as can be. For some people, they're like, yeah, there's no way I can sleep with quiet. So white noise is so much better than music or a television, because the television, obviously the music is going to be stimulating your brain, but also the television is going to be stimulating your eyes. Here's an interesting thing. Even when our eyes are closed, if there is ambient light or light from a television, our eyes are still registering that, which means our brain is still engaging with it. So even if the TV is on and your eyes are closed, your eyes are potentially still being stimulated and your brain is still being stimulated from that TV being on. I know for some people it's impossible. And again, baby steps. I'm telling you the ideal things. So quiet, dark, cool for a good 8 hours of sleep. In my previous episodes, you are going to hear me talk about the importance of, that typical 7 to 9 hours of sleep that a lot of people say, oh, I only need 4 hours and I'm fine. I call horse malarkey. We all need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Biologically, it's just a fact. I read a study recently that more research is being done to include women. So here's a little side note. Most medical research, even into the 1960s, was done with just men, and women were not included in that. That's a whole nother podcast season for a whole nother time period in terms of just women's health and how it's so biologically different than men's health. However, women have recently been studied with regards to sleep, and it turns out that because our bodies are physiologically different, women's bodies need more sleep. So while my husband might be just fine on maybe 6 to 8 hours of sleep, I might be more along the lines of like 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And that might seem like a lot of sleep, but if we think about all that our bodies do during the course of the day, and when I say bodies, I mean from the top of our head to the tip of our toes, which means all the brain capacity that we are engaging in, all of the emotional energy that we are expending, all of the task mastering that we are taking care of, all of the emotional load that we are carrying, our bodies are exhausted. Not to mention all of the hormone creation and the systems of our body that are just go, go, go all day long. So you've engaged in that sleep routine, kind of preparing your body for sleep, giving it the cues, and you're in bed, lights out, 10 o'clock. Hopefully you're sleeping for 8 hours. Let's just say 8 hours. So then 6 o'clock rolls around. It's time to wake up. That morning routine is just as important as the evening routine. There's a lot of research that shows retraining your circadian rhythm, so the rhythms of our body. Sunlight is really important to that circadian rhythm. So if you can wake up in the morning and you can have some sunlight first thing in the morning and kind of start to help your systems to be adjusted to, okay, the sun is up, it's time for us to be awake. Sunlight and fresh air, not walking out of the bedroom and immediately pouring a cup of coffee. And I'm calling my husband out on this because it's a cup of coffee, a bowl of cereal, and the news. Yuck. For me, that's just not going to work. So it's more of a quiet start to the morning, beginning to engage in some activities that prepare us for the day. That go to the morning routine episode that Kristen and I recorded in season 4 to talk about morning routines. However, I'm going to say it here that your morning routine is directly related to your evening routine, in that if you set yourself up in the morning for a good day, then you're going to be primed and ready for that evening routine that's going to set you up for sleep, that's then going to make you more energized and ready for that morning routine. So do you see how it's connected, right? It's not a chicken and the egg type thing, which came first. They are directly related to each other. So I just shared with you the idea of this sleep routine, and half of you have probably said, yeah, right, not going to happen. So I just want you to consider, where's one place that you can start to manipulate your evening routine, your bedtime routine, so that you can get good sleep. Maybe for some of you, oh, I could take a bath or a shower in the evening before bed. Okay, great. That could become the thing that you do before bed every night that tells your body it's time to create melatonin. Maybe it's putting my pajamas on, washing my face, brushing my teeth, flossing, and I don't know, plugging my phone into the charger, right? That routine becomes the thing that tells my body it's time to start making melatonin. You've heard me say this before if you've listened to our podcast in the past. And if you go back and listen to the other sleep episodes, you're going to hear me say this too. There's a reason why, for many people, children have bedtime routines. When my kiddos were little, and I'm not going to like toot my own horn and say that we were experts at this, but we had a pretty standard bedtime routine, and sure, we deviated from it some. However, the evenings were quieter in our home, and typically around 7:00, we would, tidy up the main level of the home. We would take the boys upstairs. We would give them a bath. We would put them in their pajamas. We would read them bedtime stories, lights out, their little music. It was lullabies from Baby Einstein. And we would turn their little classical music on, and then I would sing them "You Are My Sunshine" twice. Never more than that. Always twice. I don't know. It's just part of the routine. And they would be in bed by 8:00. So that, hour-long bath, bed routine, because once we took them upstairs, I know biologically their body was saying, okay, it's time to start producing melatonin. It's time to help these little guys get ready for bed. What do? We just go, and then drop into bed. So how can we begin to manipulate that routine so it looks more like that kind of bedtime routine? And many things can happen within the whole home. And, younger kids, babies, toddlers are easier to get involved in this. Older kids and teenagers are a little bit harder because they kind of have a mind of their own. But, beginning to like turn the lights off in the house and just kind of keep things quiet, that can be a whole household thing, right? Hopefully everyone in your home can be kind of on board with like, we're going to bring it down a little bit, right? We're going to start to quiet down. If the whole shower bath thing doesn't work for you, that's okay. But what is the routine that you can put physically you can engage into that can help to, I'm going to get in my pajamas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you're already doing some of those things, right? Maybe you put your pajamas on, you brush your teeth. Great. So maybe just like a warm cloth on your face might be the thing that helps to begin. And it's consistency. We can make tiny little changes. We can make a different change every single night and say, oh, this isn't working. But if you make one change, maybe it's plugging your phone into another room. My husband's always had his phone plugged into the bathroom as a charger in our room. And I always had it plugged in next to my bed until probably, 6 months ago or so. And I moved it into the bathroom, which means two things. The first thing is that I'm not tempted to just grab it in the middle of the night if I do happen to wake up or if I'm having a hard time going to sleep because it's in the bathroom. And the other thing is that I have to get up to turn it off when the alarm goes off. I do have an Apple Watch. I can override that by hitting snooze on the Apple Watch, But for the most part, I have to get up to turn off that alarm, which means once I'm up, I'm up. So maybe it's just moving the place where you charge your phone, but it's about being consistent over time. If you do something tonight and you're like, oh, it doesn't work, do it again tomorrow night and do it again for like a week to 2 weeks and take note of how things are changing. Take a journal and maybe you rate your sleep. What time did I get in bed? How long did it take me to fall asleep? How many times did I wake up in the middle of the night? And did I wake up feeling refreshed? Did I hit snooze, right? Just 4 or 5 little data points that can be really helpful, that over time, I guarantee you're going to see that that's changed. The other thing, and someone reminded me of this yesterday, was if you wear a smartwatch to bed, I'm not a proponent for it one way or the other, but if you wear a smartwatch to bed, then the app associated with your smartwatch is going to tell you about your sleep. Here's what I did. I looked at my deep sleep, which is the cycle of sleep where we have to get to. Everybody thought REM sleep was like the place to be, but deep sleep is where we begin to rest enough where our body can restore and heal. So we have to get between 1.5 and 2 hours of deep sleep every night. So if you're only sleeping for 4 or 5 hours, you're not getting much deep sleep at all. So no wonder you're not feeling refreshed and restored because your body didn't have a chance to really rest and repair. So I looked, and over the last week, my average minutes of deep sleep was 46 minutes. That's really low. If I'm supposed to be getting 90 to 120 and I'm only getting 46 minutes of deep sleep, I'm getting half of what I should be getting. So last night, I manipulated my sleep routine just a smidge. I went back to what I, quote, should be doing, right? I went back to what I know works for me. And I got 1 hour and 6 minutes of deep sleep last night. Just a slight little manipulation. Here's what I did. I went into my room. Pajamas, washed my face, brushed my teeth, got into bed, didn't have the phone. I did some journaling and I read 1 chapter of a book, turned the light off. Took me a little bit to fall asleep. However, it worked. My husband's out of town right now, and I typically don't sleep very well when he's not home because I always fall asleep with the TV on. And last night I was determined to not do that. Took me a little bit to fall asleep, but then when the alarm went off this morning, I was like, wow, I slept all night long. 1 hour and 6 minutes of deep sleep with just a slight little manipulation of things. So data is interesting. So if you have a smartwatch, use that data to be able to check things out. The other piece of it is take your own data if you don't have a smartwatch. What time am I going to bed? About how long is it taking me to go to sleep? Am I tossing and turning? What time am I waking up? And am I feeling refreshed in the morning? And if there's any impact on any of those things, especially waking up throughout the night and not feeling refreshed when you wake up, you got to make some changes. All of these 5 pillars of wellness, I'm going to tie it up here. All these 5 pillars of wellness, you've heard me say they're tied in together. If you have a house on a foundation of 5 pillars and one of those pillars gets knocked out, the house is going to fall down. So if you're living your life with 5 pillars of wellness, but you're not sleeping worth a darn, it also means that you're going to be cranky and your relationships are going to be impacted. It means you're going to be too tired to exercise, so there's not going to be any movement. You're going to feel stressed because your body is physiologically, your body is stressed from not getting enough sleep. And I don't know about you, but I do not eat well the day after I haven't slept. I am much more likely to grab more caffeine and more sugar because I want that energy boost. Some might say that nutrition is where we have to start. I'm not a nutrition expert, but I would say if we are feeding and fueling our bodies the right way, then it's going to be able to help us to do the things that we need to do, moving, sleeping, feeling less stress, and engaged in healthy relationships. What I want to say to you today is, where can you make small changes that are sustainable that will impact you over time? One tiny little place, where can you make that change so you can get a good night's sleep tonight? You can wake up tomorrow feeling refreshed, and you can be ready to eat well and move well, not feel so dang stressed, and have healthy relationships. Hope I didn't ramble too much today. I think these are really important topics, and I just want you to get nuggets of information, tiny little nuggets of information. And I hope I was able to give you that. As always, reach out if you have thoughts or questions. Jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. Follow us on our socials, send us a DM. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.